All right, guys, to be honest, between you and me, I'm not the best at playing Splatling, and I wanted to give you guys a good guide. So to do so, I went and asked for help from a good friend of mine named Tess. Now, if you guys do not know, Tess is a wonderful Splatoon 2 streamer that happens to play Hydra and other Splatlings, and they're really good. So if you guys want to see more Hydra gameplay and just want to see more about how to play Hydra, I recommend you guys check out Tess. Their social will be all in the description. Go check them out. And yeah, without further ado, let's get on with the Hydra Splatling guide. Now, as a Hydra player, there are a couple things you want to be focusing on, a couple things you want to be paying attention to, and a couple things you want to do in your rank games. And honestly, one of the most important things to do as a Hydra player is honestly good positioning. Good positioning matters a lot. Hydra up close that needs to charge honestly can't do much. You're basically just a sitting duck, and you never want to be a sitting duck in Splatoon. So something you have to make sure you have is good positioning. So what I say is I recommend essentially being in more of a mid to back line position from your team. So that way, if your opponent tries to get to you, they essentially have to rush your entire team in order to even get to you. Since you're essentially the back line and the anchor of the team, you want to be in a good position so that essentially, you know, your team are in a good range, so that let's say your teammates get into a 1v1, you're able to quickly fire off some shots and support your teammates in that 1v1, you know, and basically turn the tide in a battle. So a good position you want to have is very much not so far away that you're basically just not existent in a fight, but also not super close up that you're essentially just a sitting duck and super easy to pick off. So try to make sure that you're essentially behind your teammates and able to still provide support and pressure to them if they ever need their feet painted, if they ever need to quickly get damage on an opponent. You're able to essentially provide them cover for when they need a retreat or for when they're in that crucial 1v1s. Whenever you need to reposition or get position as a Hydra player, something that's really important to keep in mind is honestly go and, let's say in the beginning of the match, quickly just half charge. Sometimes half charging is way more better than full charging when repositioning, because you don't really have the time. You don't really want to waste all that time fully charging than to just ink a little path. Normally, typically speaking, you want to ink a little path, then follow that path and just keep doing that until you get to a good position that you actually want to. And then from there, you can full charge. And honestly, to help you make a better straight line is honestly what you should do is honestly look forward and look to where you want to shoot. And then from there, once you charge up a little bit, you know, a little half charge, you shoot forward, then you start bringing down your motion or your stick, and you basically start aiming downwards. So that way, where essentially you aimed at and then down towards your feet, essentially now you have a quick little path that you can then follow, so you can essentially go to where you need to. It's a better way of making a path for you to reposition than if you were to look down and then up. So yeah, try it out in your rank games. However, if you ever do need to run away and you can't get enough time away from your opponents, try using ink mines. Ink mines are super versatile and super useful, as you want to put ink mines not only in chokes, not only on the zone, not only on tower, not only on Rainmaker routes that you know they're going to go through, and Clam Blitz routes. You also can want to put your ink mines on the floor when you're basically getting chased, because let's say you put an ink mine and then your opponent goes over it and they go over two. All you need is a quick little shot, and you essentially stop them from, you know, chasing you. You basically got the splat. So using ink mines when you're getting chased is super useful, but also using them on crucial flanking spots is also really important, because it gives your team information, especially if they're pushing Rainmaker or something. It goes, oh snap, somebody's there, and then, you know, you have the person will also be like located. You're able to essentially you'll be able to know when your opponents are going through chokes. And as a backline, as a Hydra, you're gonna get flanked a lot, because that's the best way to essentially deal with the Hydra, is flanking them. And since you're playing Hydra, you have range. Don't be afraid to take advantage of it and essentially take high ground. It's always easier to shoot down on an opponent than it is for an opponent to shoot up. So if you ever can, make sure to have high ground and control high ground. That way your opponents can't just simply, let's say, go up to you. It's harder for them to approach you, and it's harder for them to shoot at you. A good example of this is on Kelp Dome splat zones. You see me very much always try to take the catwalk, as Hydra can really walk and run, and honestly having high ground is really important, because if anyone tries to approach me, I could just quickly mow them down before they can even get to me on the catwalks. Since you're essentially playing back and, like, you know, more of a back and more in the backline role as a Hydra, let's go over some jobs that you should actually be doing and some stuff that you should be focusing on as an anchor for your team. as the anchor for your team, something you should really be focusing and just watching out for is objective. Objective is super important for not just an anchor player, but really much for a Hydra player, because Rainmaker shield can get easily popped by a Hydra. If Splat Zone needs to be covered, you can easily put ink mines, but also put pressure and paint the zone by yourself as a Hydra player. So it's really crucial that you focus on the objective, so that way your teammates are able, you're basically, you know, allowing your teammates to not worry about the objective and pushing Rainmaker or pushing tower. They're able to essentially focus on pushing up and taking space. So something to really take in mind and focus on is objective. You know, if your opponents are pushing tower, make sure that you actually are holding the tower, so that way you're able to just quickly the tower and, you know, quickly surprise and, you know, make it so that your opponents can't really attack you. Same thing for Rainmaker, same thing for Clamblitz. It's really important. Something I like to do while playing Hydra on Clamblitz is honestly pick up the pity clam. If I'm playing Hydra on Clamblitz, I'm picking up the pity clam. I'm making sure that I have that football, so that way when my teammates are pushing in and I can need to, I'm able to quickly jump to my teammates and then throw the football in. As obviously a Hydra doesn't want to be frontline, but you want to still be focusing on objective and, you know, putting your support onto the objective. That way your team is actually able to win. As honestly, if someone needs to carry the Rainmaker, Hydra should be the one carrying the Rainmaker. The second job you should be focusing on while playing anchor is honestly countering backlines. Countering backlines is super important, because if there's ever another splatling, it's gonna be very difficult for your teammates to deal with that splatling. So something you need to do is honestly show them who's boss. Show them that you're the better Hydra player. You saw my guide and they didn't. You know what to do. So to do so, make sure you're actually countering other backlines. Make sure that you're actually able to take those 1v1s against the opponent's backline, and you're able to essentially put pressure onto them. Now, of course, countering backlines is easier said than done, as you have to still fight chargers, because chargers are backlines. So we got tech for fighting chargers later on in the video. So yeah. And third, one of the really big jobs as an anchor is honestly staying alive. Staying alive as an anchor is super important, especially as a Hydra, because you have armor. Armor super versatile and super useful. So you actually want to stay alive a lot of times as a Hydra player if you ever can. So if you ever need to, jump out if it's ever not safe. It's more important to basically stay alive than to just simply get splattered or take an off angle and you're flanking and you just get splatted. So staying alive is super important, as essentially when you stay alive, if let's say you have a Tetras that go in and just rush, but now essentially let's say they got 2 and traded, now they're down, but you know, they need someone to go back in because it takes a while to basically respawn, then go back to middle. So to do so as a Hydra player, you're essentially a live beacon, so that if your team ever basically, let's say, like I said, goes down to those 1v1s, they're able to go, oh snap, I'm able to jump to my Hydra player. They jump to you, they jump to a safe position, and then they're back into the fight and they're back into the motion. And it's really important to do so as a Hydra player, as staying alive, you act as a live beacon and you support your team just by staying alive. Now, in order to take 1v1s and basically fight against other backlines, or just in general, and you want to help your teammates in those crucial 1v1 moments, some stuff that you should be focusing on is, as a Hydra, is honestly, you should be charging up your shots before you're even peeking. You never want to be out in the open charging your shots, because oftentimes your opponents know that you're shooting, so they'll basically be hiding away from you, or they'll be waiting for you to quickly finish all your shots, so that way they're able to quickly sneak up on you and splat you. So something that's really important for you to do is honestly make sure that you charge up your shots behind a wall. Your body will be basically fully covered, and then when you need to, you're able to quickly peek out and, you know, go out and quickly mow down your opponents. You know, you see me oftentimes in this video just quickly hide away from my opponents, and then when I'm ready, I'm able to quickly just walk out and just put on some pressure and put on some fire, going on my opponents, because that's essentially what I have to do as a Hydra, and it helps because I'm not spending any time charging up my shots, and I'm not spending any time being in the open, being an easy splat. Something that help with charging and peeking is honestly right peeking. If you guys want, I made a whole video on right peeking in the little eye icon, but essentially right peeking is when your entire body is covered and then you quickly peek out a little bit with your weapon, so that way your weapon is able to essentially shoot out, since all Inklings and Octolings in Splatoon are right-handed. This essentially has the effect of when you're essentially, let's say, near a box or near a wall, you're able to essentially have most of your, let's say 97% of your body covered, but you still have that little bit of your body that's able to basically peek out and shoot, and that's essentially the Hydra. That'll essentially be your weapon that's shooting out. So yeah, take advantage of right peeking when you can. That is super versatile and super useful, especially when fighting against chargers. Now, something to really keep in mind is that when you're actually fully charging your shot, fully charge it. You never want to have a partly charged shot. Most of the times you always want to full charge your Hydra. So if you ever full charge your Hydra, fully charge it, then, look and focus and take your time with actually seeing where your opponent is. Put your Recno, let's say, on your opponent and quickly snap to them. So that way you're essentially going, all right, my Recno's here. I see my opponents are moving. You're able to quickly go, oh no, wait, and look at them and then track them a little bit and then start shooting, as this essentially helps you aim your Hydra better. So that way, essentially, you're able to shoot bore and you're able to get the opponent more oftentimes than not than like quickly just charging, then shooting, and you're missing all your shots, as oftentimes that charge time can be really crucial. Sometimes, all you have to do is just quickly snap to an opponent, mow them down, then quickly snap to another one. So you never know. But in that beginning crucial, just like following an opponent, sometimes it's really useful to just follow an opponent, then start shooting, as the opponents aren't expecting it. So yeah, try it out. So fighting chargers as the splatling is very difficult. Oftentimes they're right peeking, so their body's really covered. So what you want to do is essentially use your weapon to essentially have fall off damage on them. Now essentially what you want to do is now practice your arch and basically practice shooting upwards, so that way the arch of your shots now land where the charger actually is. And it's a good way of just catching chargers off guard and surprising them, and also like winning the 1v1 that they weren't expecting shots to fly on them. And it's a really good way of just being like, haha, gotcha, because fighting chargers are really difficult. So if you really want to practice it, you can go to the practice range and test it out with the dummies, just seeing how your velocity, how your shot trajectory is against the dummies. And then from there you kind of like develop a habit of, okay, my opponent's kind of this far, let me just aim here, and you get them. So yeah. And honestly, when you're taking 1v1s, and something really important to do is, once you're done fighting, like let's say you're done shooting and you're just shooting the wall waiting for your charge to end, just dip into the ink. Dipping into the ink resets your charge, and it makes it so that you actually, let's say, recover ink faster than if you were to just simply stay there and keep shooting. So quickly dip into the ink, stop your charge, you can pop right out and quickly charge up your shot again. And this is super important because sometimes you don't want to just be shooting off little pellets waiting for those times. You want to spend those few seconds actually in the ink recharging your ink, or quickly charging up your next shot, because you never know when a quick ink brush or some opponent is going to quickly pop out, and then you're able to just go on your opponent. So yeah. Now, the best time to use armor as a Hydra player is honestly when you and your team are about to start a push. You're about to start a push, you're about to start an engagement, you're about to take a fight. Use armor. It's the best time, so that way your team all has armor, they're all protected a little bit. It's really useful. It also helps you in case you're ever taking those 1v1 moments, but you can quickly pop that armor, you have a little bit more protection, and then you're able to quickly go on your opponent. And yeah, try it out. Now, some common mistakes with armor is using it when your teammates are actually down. Try to not use armor when it's not needed. Try saving it for when your opponents pop armor, or for when your team is actually making a push. Try to save armor for those crucial moments, as armor is super useful and really depending on timing. So try not to essentially use it too early for when your team is already when your team just isn't ready for a push, or too late when your team already is down in a push and already lost the fight. Keep in mind that when you pop armor will essentially reset your charge when you're playing Hydra. So something to keep in mind is, actually, if you're ever going to take a 1v1, is pop armor, then charge up your shot, then peek. And essentially from there, you'll be able to take and win those 1v1s better than if you were to, let's say charge armor, then peek, because your charge will be resetted. Now let's talk abilities and gear on the Hydra splatling. And honestly, 1 main, 2 subs of main power up is super useful, as this is the main cap off of damage that you need for a Hydra. And it's super useful because essentially, you want to be able to get your opponent splatted in the least amount of shots possible. It's better for you, it's better for your team. So that little bit of main power up helps, especially with fall off, because it increases the damage you have. So those fall off shots you have would actually be more reliable on splatting your opponent. So hey, try it out. Run speed and ink resistance are both really useful and really good gear to have on Hydra splatling. And honestly, it's a really good thing to actually run, but depending on the amount you want, really up to you. If you really want to run fast, you can run a lot of run speed. If you don't, it's all good. if the rest of the abilities that you actually want are honestly personal preference. It's up to you as to what you want. Some people want Inksaver main, some people want Inksaver sub. It's all down to personal preference. Now, if you're looking for the gear in the build that Tess, yes, the famous Tess, is using, this is the gear that they shared with me. And yeah, try it out. Try out this gear if you want, if you want to play Hydra as well, or if you want some other builds and that really isn't your favorite. These are some builds I found on Sendu.ink, and try it out. If you want to find more builds on Sendu.ink, the link would be in the description. Just go to Sendu.ink, type in Hydra, and boom, you're able to essentially find you're basically able to find more builds on Hydra. Now, guys, if you enjoyed this video and want to see more, please make sure to like, comment, subscribe. A big thank you and shout out to Tess, as they basically helped me a lot with this guide and basically giving me tips and texts. And guys, go show Tess some support. Their socials are in the description down below. And if guys, you want to see me play other weapons that I'm a little bit better at than Hydra, I stream on Twitch every Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. Go check it out. Link is in the description. Come hang out. And yeah, without further ado, I'm out. Later.